This is Movie Recapped here. In this video, I will recap one of the dark comedy films from 1998, titled Dirty Work. So, without further ado, let's get started.
Arabella, a fashion designer, sits for breakfast at Marilyn's house with her husband, Ross. Ross is quite rich, and Marilyn is a writer. He doesn't let go of any opportunity to humiliate her and makes her feel bad. That morning, he tells her she hasn't been writing for days, and all she does is sit at home lazily without doing anything and repeats to her that she married him for money. She doesn't say a word. Suddenly, Ross starts coughing. Arabella asks him to call the ambulance, and they both watch Ross as he dies. Please don't blame them. At least do not blame Arabella unless you know where it started from. About a month ago, Arabella is an aspiring fashion designer who sees to make a wave in the industry. It's a tough one for her as she keeps making efforts that end badly. After one of her photo shoots, she submits her work to her manager, Ian, and asks Ian to recommend it to some people. However, she meets with Ian some days later, and he tells her all her work has been rejected. She couldn't believe her ears. She had added all her energies to that project, and she just couldn't take a no for an answer. Ian encourages her that she knows how their industry is and how people who aren't known can't make it. He advises her to keep adding an effort, and one day, she will get her breakthrough. She reminds him that she has added all her energies to these projects. She has wasted money and time, and she has even lost friends for these projects, and she wonders when she will eventually get her breakthrough. He advises her to find jobs with fashion designers and work with them until she gets her breakthrough, but she refuses his offer. He then asks her if she knows about the personal shoppers. He tells her that most fashion designers who haven't been known work as personal shoppers, and he brings out an advert for a personal shopper. He asks her to go for the interview, hoping it is better than doing nothing. Reluctantly, she leaves for the interview. That job, changes her life. While she waits for her turn to meet the interviewer, she says that she actually isn't the same as an average lady. Something always seems different about her, and although she doesn't know what, she still feels she has an inner self that is much different from that of an average girl. When it's her turn for the interview, she enters and meets Marilyn. She sits and introduces herself, but Marilyn says she knows her name, and she isn't interested in her works, so Arabella should sell herself. She introduces herself and talks about her school life. Marilyn asks her what she has to offer. She says that everyone outside that room for the interview is a fashion designer, and there has to be something that she can do specially. She tells Marilyn that she is sure she could do the job better than everyone outside that room. So Marilyn asks her if her parents support the career choice she has made for herself, but Arabella says her parents are late. Marilyn tells her she has a book launch in 3 weeks and she needs a personal shopper who could dress her in an emergency every day till the end of the launch, and asks if Arabella is capable. At that point, Arabella feels intimidated. She comments that there is a way Marilyn speaks to her that makes her feel like someone is thumping her. She leaves the room angrily, disposing of the job advert. Little does she know that Marilyn will be the one that will unleash her inner self. She returns home, and she meets a plumber who is to work on their faulty taps. She goes to him, and the man, Marcus, tells her about how he relocated to that city about 2 years ago, and now he has his job, and he has a house to himself. All he wants more is a woman. He tries to cut some seductive eyes for her, but her roommate, Safi, enters. She asks if Marcus is hot and if they can use Marcus. Having confirmed with Arabella, she goes to meet Marcus, asking him if he could help them repair a tap that has spoilt in their room. They take him to the room where they make out with him, and he has sex with both of them. Arabella comments about how wild Safi is. She was the one who first helped her in unleashing her inner self, but she couldn't get it done completely. After the affair, they both collapse on the bed. Safi drags her up to kiss her and asks her if she feels anything with the kiss, but they both do not feel anything. They wonder why they only feel like touching each other when there is a man with them, and that man is the 4th man they have shared. Arabella tells her it's because they aren't lesbians. Arabella tells Safi about the job interview, saying that Marilyn makes her feel weak, so Safi advises her to leave Marilyn and her job. Fortunately, the following day, Marilyn calls Arabella to inform her that she has been employed for the job and she should bring dresses to her apartment the following day. When Arabella gets to her house, she sees her husband, Ross. At a first glance at Ross, it's obvious he is a cheat, and she figures the reason Marilyn feels power freaked over her is that Marilyn wants to feel loved too. She drops Marilyn clothes, and Ross calls her for coffee. Marilyn returns afterwards and can't find her manuscripts. She sees it with Ross, who reads it to embarrass her, and she tells him to stop. He calls her to the room, where he slaps her and tells her she doesn't contribute any money to that house, so she has no right to talk to him that day. He walks away, and Arabella goes to console Marilyn. Marilyn tells her it is fine and tells her to prepare her clothes and leave. Arabella asks what the book is about, and she tells her it's about a man who maltreats his wife until she kills him. Arabella has always loved girls. It makes her feel wet, and she feels so attracted to Marilyn. However, Arabella stays by and sniffs all of Marilyn's clothes, and when she sees her, she runs to the closet. Marilyn comes with a man, and she watches them have sex and touches herself. She runs out when Marilyn goes to have her bath, and she tries it again the second time. She finds herself unable to stop it. One morning while she shops for Marilyn's interview clothes with Dylan, she gives Marilyn clothes she made, but Marilyn rejects them. She gives her designer wear, and Marilyn goes for her interview. After the interview, Dylan flirts with her, and they have sex while she watches in the bedroom. For the first time, she feels like joining her. Her inner self has woken up, and she feels she could join. That night, she calls Safi and tells her she wishes to join the relationship, although Safi thinks it's because that's her mother's death week, and she is just scared. She tells Safi she isn't drinking or on drugs, so she is fine. The following day, she goes to Marilyn's house, and she sees Marilyn with another man. She watches as Marilyn has sex with him, and when the man goes to use the restroom, Marilyn calls out for Arabella. She says she knows Arabella has been watching, but she only wonders why Arabella has never joined. She asks Arabella if she will join and become a loyal dog, and Arabella accepts. When the man returns, she blindfolds him and asks Arabella to enter and have sex with him. Marilyn watches as Arabella has sex with the man, and she masturbates. After the affair, they talk, and she asks Arabella of her most public sex. Arabella narrates when she had sex with her best friend's dad on the train, and Marilyn gives her a chain telling her she will be her dog, following her everywhere she wants, and she will pay her. During their next dressing, she asks Arabella to attend one of her husband's business meetings with her. Ross sleeps right after the meeting, and Marilyn proceeds to have a threesome with two of the men, and another one goes to have sex with Arabella. The following day, Arabella asks her what she would have done if Ross wakes up and asks her why she had stayed in a loveless relationship. Marilyn explains that Ross threatens to collect everything from her, and she feels trapped. After that conversation, she sees Ross talking to a strange man. She wonders if she should tell Marilyn, especially now that she is her submissive, but she doesn't tell her. She meets with Safi, who wonders if she is in love with Marilyn, but she claims she isn't in love. She returns to Marilyn's house and sees the door locked. She enters through the back door, and she sees Marilyn injured. She goes to console Marilyn, who asks to take her to where she unwinds from pain. She takes Arabella to a club. It's a members-only BDSM club and lies Arabella as her daughter so Arabella can gain entrance. Arabella had never been to a club like that, which was an experience. She refuses to inflict pain, and Marilyn ties her and makes her watch her sex. Arabella gets jealous that other men are touching Marilyn while she watches, and the following day, when Marilyn releases her, Marilyn asks if she will do anything for her. She kisses Marilyn, and they have sex. At home, she informs Marilyn of the strange man. When Marilyn wakes, she sees Arabella making breakfast for Ross. That breakfast led to his death, and while he is in pain, they make him watch them as they have sex. The police are invited, and they ask them if they know anyone who can hurt Ross, so Arabella talks about the strange man in hoodie. After the meeting, Marilyn has a bath with her and tells her they have to have space for some days, asking her how she got the power to kill her husband and how she feels having that dominance. Arabella narrates that she had intercourse with Safi's father at the age of 13, and it continues until she tells him she wants something serious, and he breaks up. She threatens to tell Safi, but he begs her otherwise. 2 days later, he commits suicide. They depart that night, and she decides to use her new energy to create designs, and her designs are accepted by a designer who asks her to make a sample. She calls Marilyn to celebrate, and she sneaks into Marilyn's house. She meets the man in a hoodie and confronts him. The man tells her he is a private investigator hired by Ross, who feels his life is at stake. He says she should be fearful of Marilyn as Marilyn will always have the power, and no one will have power when she is there. The man leaves, and Marilyn arrives. She packs her load hurriedly, and when Arabella confronts her, she calls the police and makes them wear how Arabella killed her husband. She attempts to leave, and Arabella asks if she is used. She explains to Arabella that everything was her plan and she was in power. She wanted her husband dead, and she didn't want to use her hands, so Arabella was the best fit. She says it's time for the final act, and she brings out a hammer and hits her head. Arabella feels compassion for her and takes the hammer from her. The police arrive, and Marilyn pretends to be the victim. Arabella is arrested, and she gets imprisoned for 6 years. She is released for good behavior, and she finds Marilyn waiting for her at the prison gate. Throughout her stay at the prison, she figures out what her real position is.
I appreciate you coming. To ensure that you never miss an update, please click the subscribe button and turn on the notification icon. Thank you.